Hey guys, I know I've really been wanting to find out what's happening with Fudge-A-Mania. If you remember when we left off, um, Peter, Jimmy had just gotten to Peter's up in Maine, and now Peter's trying to figure out how he's going to tell Jimmy that they all live in one big house. So let's see what happens. Mom took Tootsie from Mr. Fargo. Thanks for driving Jimmy all the way, Frank, she said. I know what a long trip it is. Used to come up here a lot in the old days, Mr. Fargo said, with my ex-wife. You remember my ex-wife, don't you? Uh-oh, I thought. I hope he's not going to start in on Mrs. Fargo because Jimmy really hates when he does it. How about something to drink, Frank? Dad asked. I was glad he changed the subject. Some fizzy water if you have it, Mr. Fargo said. Coming right up. Mom smiled, but I could tell she was tense. A lot of people get tense around Mr. Fargo. I think it's because he never smiles, even when he's trying to be friendly. How about this Maine weather? Mom asked. You have to have weather, whether or not, Mr. Fargo said. Jimmy groaned. That's so bad, Dad. I heard a car pull into the driveway. Oh no, I thought, not now. The car door slammed, and a minute later the Tubmans were bounding up the porch steps and into the house. Sheila headed straight for the fire. It's so cold and damp, she began. She stopped when she saw Jimmy. Oh, it's you. What's she doing here? Jimmy asked. I'll explain later, I whispered. But Sheila explained for me. I happen to live here. This happens to be my house. I thought this was your house, Jimmy said to me. Well, see, I began. We share the living room and the kitchen, Sheila said. We eat breakfast and dinner together every day. Jimmy looked at me. I don't get it. It's like two houses in one, I told him. It's like they're connected. Connected? Jimmy said. Yeah, joined together, I said. I looked over at Sheila. She was enjoying this. Joined together? Jimmy said. Sheila laughed out loud. I glared at her. See, our family lives over there, I explained, pointing to the other side of the house, and her family lives over here. And the living room and the kitchen are sort of in the middle. Jimmy just stood there with his mouth half open. Sheila picked Jake up and started kissing her. Isn't my dog adorable? She asked Jimmy between smooches. I thought you were afraid of dogs, Jimmy said. She is, I told him. That's not true, Sheila said. I just don't like big, smelly dogs. Turtle, who was asleep in the corner, raised his head. Attack, I told him mentally, but he didn't get my message. He just scratched himself and went back to sleep. Sheila carried Jake over to Jimmy and put her in his arms. Rubber belly, she loves that. Jimmy held Jake like a baby. She's so soft. This was too much. I was glad when Dad called dinner's almost ready. Pasta with Anne's special sauce. Mr. Fargo suddenly came to life and said, Better go get our things inside, Jimmy. When Jimmy and his father went out to the car, my mom said, Did he say our things? He meant Jimmy's things, I told her. I hope so, Mom said, looking worried. But then Jimmy carried one duffel bag into the house, and Mr. Fargo carried another. I don't have much, Mr. Fargo said. Just this and my art supplies. You're planning to stay with us, Mom asked. No point in trying to camp out in this weather, Mr. Fargo told her. From the look on Mom's face, I thought she might faint. There was a long, awkward silence. Finally, Dad said, You can have the sofa in here, Frank. It's the only available space left. Unless Grandma sleeps with Buzzy Sr., Fudge said, then I can sleep in Grandma's bed and Mr. Fargo can have the rollaway. Everyone looked at Fudge, including Mr. Fargo. Don't go to any trouble, he said. The sofa looks mighty good to me. Later, when Jimmy and I were in the bathroom getting ready for bed, he said, I'm really embarrassed about my father. Anybody can see you've already got too many people in this house. It's no big deal. I handed him a clean towel. Yeah, right. That's how come your mother almost fainted. Only because we're out of beds, I said. You think my father cares about beds? He likes to sleep on the floor. It's okay. Forget it. Jimmy spit out toothpaste. You know he's weird. He doesn't mean to be, but he is. He's not that weird. I flushed the toilet, which reminded me of my poison gas story. Look, I said, I'm embarrassed too. I should have told you about sharing a house with the Tubmans. But I didn't find out until we got up here, and then, well, I was afraid if I told you, you wouldn't come. I probably wouldn't have, Jimmy said. But now that I'm here, it doesn't seem that bad. I was glad I wouldn't have to lie to Jimmy after all, and telling him the truth wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Still, I couldn't help wondering how he would reacted to my story. I decided to find out. As soon as we were in bed, I said, "Did you hear about the poison gas?" "What poison gas?" "The poison gas in the toilets." "What toilets?" "Some guy up here, he had poison gas in all his toilets." "What do you mean, poison gas?" Jimmy faced me and propped himself up on his elbow. "It was this green, steamy, gurgly stuff that bubbled up every time he flushed." "Green, steamy, gurgly stuff?" Jimmy started to laugh. "It's not funny," I said. "It was an environmental disaster." "An environmental disaster?" Jimmy said. "Where'd you read that? The National Enquirer?" "You don't think it's possible?" Yeah, I think it's possible if the guy ate something that didn't agree with him." Jimmy broke up laughing. "Ha ha," I said, and I reached over and turned out the light. "Ha ha ha," a voice repeated, and it wasn't Jimmy. I jumped up out of bed and opened the door. Fudge was sitting on the floor right outside my room. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I don't know." "Didn't anybody ever tell you you're not supposed to listen to private conversations?" "No." I picked him up and turned him upside down and held him that way until his face turned purple. "Put me down, Pete." "Not until you promise never to do that again." "Okay, I promise." I didn't believe him for a second, but I put him down anyway. "Now go to bed." "I can't." "Why not?" "I'm afraid of the rollaway." "The rollaway can't hurt you." "Yes, it can. It can smash me. So I'll sleep in here with you and Jimmy." "No, you won't." I carried him down the hall and dropped him on the rollaway bed. Grandma and Tootsie were already asleep. Fudge listened to Grandma, who was snoring softly. "No monsters tonight," he whispered, pointing in her direction. "Right," I whispered back. "Now go to sleep." "Tuck me in," he said. I tucked him in. "Now kiss me good night." I was about to drop a light one on his forehead when he reached up, grabbed me around the neck, and pulled me down. Then he planted a big wet smackaroo right in the middle of my face. "Sweet dreams, Pete." All right, guys. On the next time, we'll start chapter 11, the ISAF Club. See you later. Bye.